long, but I am honored to be here. And as the conference wraps up, just to hear the wonderful feedback that you all gave about how much you learned. I do have a short sort of um, lesson or speech to give you guys on my experience as an English instructor in the United States. I teach English composition, writing, and then literature at the University of South Alabama in Mobile, Alabama. And so I just wanted to share some insight into, as the conference wraps up on what I've learned is helped my students to be engaging in the classroom and also to appreciate literature because at least I know for my students, there is sometimes a difficulty in getting them to really see the relevance in literature. And especially because I teach at a college where we have a lot of science majors and we have a lot of students from other majors. And so they're required to take literature courses. And so they might not see the relevance in it. And also just to offer some tips as we move forward. Here in the United States, we're about to start the next academic year. So we have a fresh start. And, I'm always looking for more ways to engage my students and to really help them, get the most out of their literature course. And so I'm actually going to share, I don't have a visual like PowerPoint or other visual aid, but I am going to share in the chat box something that I'd like you all to read along with me. If I can, let's see here if I can do this correctly. Okay. Oh, it's not allowing me to copy and paste. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to read to you something that I put on the screen in front of my students. And this is something that I go over with them the very first day of class. And so it's to help them engage. So I tell them to imagine you find out you're the first human to ever exist. You have no clue who or where you came from. There's no trace of any people or person who came before you. How does that make you feel? Would you feel lonely or isolated or lost without knowing who you came from or where you came from? And I think most of us would say we feel that way. Literature is the stories that connect us to those of our past and even those of present day. It's the paper trail of the human story. And I tell my students they're about to embark on a journey that traces and follows some of the earliest writing, because I teach early literature, and in this case, specifically from the British Isles. Through the literature we read, we'll trace the human stories and ideas through words. Through the literature we read, you will trace human stories and from ancient peoples all the way to recent peoples. You'll see what stories they felt were most important to share with other humans. The text we read will show human emotions, cultures, concerns, and ideas that our forebears felt. And that intimate human connection is part of what makes literature so fascinating for us all. Literature is truly the story of humanity, of us, told by peoples from across time and space. When we read literature, we're reading the words of a person who lived hundreds or thousands of years ago, their words, their voice. Other disciplines like archaeology, anthropology, physical evidence from those can tell us a lot, and of course we know that's valuable, but literature is our story. It offers elaboration and insight into human lives that no other discipline offers. And modern archaeologists, anthropologists will often seek people today who are descendants from these cultures to hear the human side of the stories. So while science can tell us a lot, it doesn't necessarily allow us to find that connection of the human self and all our multifaceted emotions that literature does. So that's kind of the intro that I give to my students to help them see that literature and what they're reading is a part of this larger story. And that's what we're tapping into when we study literature and when we really engage with the text that we're reading. Um, and so, um, so I emphasize these ideas throughout the entirety of my literature courses. And while, you can say this is relevant, it's not something that, you want to repeat throughout each semester. And so I just have some ways that we can help students to feel the relevance of literature in our courses. And some of those is I've talked to many friends and family over the years who have gone through higher education. And when they discuss their favorite courses with me, they'll always say that they feel their professor was always motivated and extremely passionate. So that's one sort of recommendation I have for us as professors of literature is to show the passion that you have for your subject, of course, through your teaching. Students engage with us when we're animated, and it doesn't have to mean that we have to be super excited every day, but to really show the passion and for what we've studied for so many years. And that really helps students engage with the text as well, even if they are a science major and aren't necessarily super passionate about literature themselves, right? Um, Another thing that I like to do, especially we have a big College of Medicine at my school, is to interweave the sciences where possible. So for example, if we're reading a text, I might show pictures on the projector screen of archaeology finds from the culture that we're reading literature from. Or I might, I always try to show pictures of what, that city looks like now from the text that we're studying. Also, we have to remember who our students are. Think about the students that you're teaching. Are you teaching adult learners? For me, I teach a lot of students fresh out of primary or high school, as we call it in the US. So a lot of them are 18 to 24 years old. So I have to learn how to engage with those, younger students and find out, what do they care about right now, and how can I tap into that when I'm teaching my literature classes? A lot of you might be teaching students who are non-native English speakers, so connect with them as you know how to, and help them see you know their passions in literature. For example, an 18-year-old is going to be passionate about love, for example. So I weave in like Shakespearean love sonnets, right? So that might help them connect with something they're experiencing in their daily lives. And not every lesson or every day has to be life or course altering, but having engaging days like that sprinkled throughout the term or semester help students engage and appreciate what's being taught, and to appreciate the beauty of literature as we all see it and as we understand it, and help them understand that this is part of the human experience, that anyone from around the world, whether here in the United States or many of you in India, we all tap into that, and we have our stories to share, and literature is the way that we share that with others. And I just want to thank you guys for having me. And, I hope just a little of what I shared can help you all as you, move into the next academic year and engage your students the best you can. Thank you.
Thank you.